Today on Explain with Sean, we're going to be taking a look at this iPhone 8 that I bought on eBay for about $94, including tax. We have a housing with extra battery strips, and all the buttons, SIM tray, and everything else we'll need. We then have our water seals, which I'm not currently installing on camera. Next, I'm going to go ahead and take out the two pentalobe screws at the bottom of the iPhone 8. After that's done, we'll go ahead and take our hairdryer and heat up the current water seal to make opening easier. We'll go ahead and insert our iPixel opening tool on the left side of the phone and slowly work our way around the display, making sure not to stick the tool in too far. Next, we're going to go ahead and take our guitar picks and keep the display open while we move the iPixel tool around, just to ensure that the adhesive doesn't raid here. Continue to do that until the display moves freely off the phone, as shown here. Next, take out the 4 screws on the display bracket. They're Phillips, which is nice, versus the iPhone 7 where they were Y000. Set the bracket aside and unplug the 2 display cables going to the logic board as well as the battery. Next, take out the 3 screws that are holding down the bracket that is holding down the front-facing camera and earpiece speaker bracket. Take that off, and we're going to go ahead and take our guitar pick and unplug the front-facing camera So we're going to go ahead and plug the charging port and the antenna cable going to the bottom of the phone. We're then going to take out the 3 screws holding down that metal bracket and remove it. After that, we're going to go ahead and unplug that little antenna. And remove the screw at the bottom right, bottom top of the speaker, holding down the antenna. We're then going to take our guitar pick and remove the little part of the antenna at the bottom. Be careful not to rip the antenna while doing this. We're then going to move that set screw and that other set screw and take out the SIM card tray. And push that little pin back in, otherwise you risk breaking your logic board in half when removing the logic board. We're next going to take out the 2 screws holding the bracket on that's covering the camera, unplug the camera and remove it. Then 2 screws covering the power button, cable, and Wi-Fi antenna bracket. And we take that off, and then take out all the screws out of the Wi-Fi antenna, including that one up top. We're going to go ahead and remove the Wi-Fi antenna, and remove that one screw holding that little metal grounding bracket. And remove that little thing there. Unplug it, 2 screws. Take out that set screw at the top. And that other set screw there. And there's another screw hidden under that black tape there. Make sure to remove that or you are going to crack the top of your logic board off and render your phone completely useless. 1 screw at the top of the logic board, remove the little metal grounding bracket, and then the logic board comes out. Then we're going to go ahead and take that little sticky off the Taptic engine, unplug it, and remove it out of the phone. Take that plastic bracket off, 2 screws, and then we're going to go ahead and remove all the screws out of the charging port. Don't forget those 2 at the bottom, otherwise you risk ripping your charging port and having to buy a new one. Once we do that, we're going to go ahead and heat our charging port ribbon up with a hairdryer to make sure we don't rip it while removing it. Then we're going to go ahead and take up the charging port ribbon, being careful not to rip it, and carefully extract the rest of the charging port. After that, we're going to go ahead and remove our battery. The battery usually doesn't come out very nice, but this particular battery was a cell phone miracle in the fact that no pull tabs broke and the battery just came right out. One of the tricks is to wrap the pull tab around your tweezers as you pull it out to not make too much of a length of pull tab so it might break. The iPhone 8 has 2 pull tabs, 2 at the bottom and 2 at the top due to the fact that the wireless charging pad is in the middle and the adhesive cannot be under it. Now that we've got the battery out, we're going to go ahead and remove those little pieces of black tape on the power button and volume buttons and mute switch, and remove the 3 screws. Those black tape pieces are to keep the screws from accidentally puncturing the battery. Now we're going to go ahead and take the 2 screws out holding the power button metal bracket in that holds the button in. Remove that as well as the cable. Now we're going to go ahead and carefully run our tweezers under the cable all the way up to remove the adhesive that is holding it down to the housing. Be very careful not to rip the cable during this step. That little microphone and the flash up there are also connected to the cable, so be careful not to rip those. Then we're going to carefully pull the cable and remove it from the phone. Set that aside. Next, we're going to remove the wireless charging coil. Just take your opening tool and get under there and then peel it up. And we successfully removed it without breaking it. Now there's 2 screws on each of these brackets on the side that hold on the screen. There's 3 of them, 1 on the right and 2 on the left. The 2 on the left have black tape covering them that also keeps the screws from puncturing the battery. Very important to put those back. We're going to go ahead and take out the 2 screws on the first one and the 2 screws on the second one and remove both of them. After that, the button procedure, there's that little thing that looks like a staple almost that goes into both sides of the button that needs to be undone. After that's undone, you can then push up on a little metal clip on the button that will release it. That little metal piece is what's holding the button into the housing. The clip is what gives it some of its springiness. That we're going to go ahead and remove the buttons out of the housing, and now to the power button. Here's our new housing. We're going to go ahead and transfer that little grounding or signal antenna that goes around the top of the camera into our new housing. Don't forget to do this. Nobody knows what function it serves, but it certainly does something. We're going to go ahead and transfer the speaker grills out of our old housing into our new housing. This needs to be done to ensure that you have water resistance in your iPhone 8 after this step is done. We're going to go ahead and insert them correctly. Make sure you don't get the right and left mixed up because they are different. Then the insert that allows the speaker to be waterproof goes in, and on the left side as well. After that, we're going to go ahead and put the brackets, 1 bracket on the right side and the 2 brackets on the left side in. It's 2 screws per bracket. Make sure that you put them in the correct way. They should sit flush and not stick out. Otherwise your battery's not going to go in correctly. After you put the 2 screws in each, go over to the right side, put that one in. Next, we're going to go ahead and transfer our new buttons over to our old buttons. And we're going to go ahead and have to take off these little, almost like little tiny rubber bands that go around the power button that ensure water resistance. They're on the power and volume buttons. So you need to take those off the old ones and put them on the new ones. Or you can just reuse your old buttons, but since mine were all messed up, I had to change them out. Also, I changed out the mute switch, which is a bit of a tricky process, but can be done. Sorry I didn't show you because it took me literally forever to figure out. Next, we're going to just go the reverse of putting it back together. Put those little metal clips back over the buttons. Fasten them down, usually using a flathead screwdriver. That seems to work quite well. And we're going to do it for the power button as well. take those little metal staple-like springs and put them back on the buttons. And after we're done with that, we're going to go ahead and put the 3 screws back on the left side for the mute switch and volume buttons. And on the right side, the 2 screws for the power button. After you do this, make sure the buttons are clicking correctly before you continue. Put that black tape back over those 2 little screen clips, and also the power button, volume button, and mute switch. We're going to take off that blue plastic and install our wireless charging coil. Make sure you're installing it the right way. The plug should be toward the logic board side, as shown here. We're also going to go ahead and install our charging port. Make sure the bottom of the charging port, where the lightning connector goes in, is firmly slotted into the hole where it goes in the housing. And then stick down the cable. We're going to go ahead and put all the screws back into the charging port now. And don't forget those 2 ones that go vertical. We're going to put that little plastic cover back over the microphone. And then install the speaker. And then the Taptic engine. Plug the Taptic engine in. And install the 3 screws, including the set screw. We're then going to go ahead and stick that little antenna back down and install its bracket and 3 screws. Those are Y000. We're then going to install that metal bracket up top that covers the flash and microphone. 1 screw, stick that little board that does something, maybe manages the camera. Put the screw up top and put the set screw in the top. And the 1 screw later that goes in the bottom, put that in later. That is the SIM eject. Make sure you swap that over from your old housing, or you're not going to be able to eject your SIM card tray in your new phone. Then we're going to set the logic board down, make sure none of the connectors are under it, and we're going to go ahead and plug all the connectors that we have in here in. And install the 1 screw at the top that's covered by the tape. Install the set screw on the right top. Another set screw down at the bottom, and that screw holding down that metal bracket up by the Wi-Fi antenna. We're then going to install the screw that goes vertical in the Wi-Fi antenna, and the rest of the screws back in the little plastic Wi-Fi antenna. After that, we're going to put that metal bracket back on and install the 2 screws. Then we're going to take the battery, take off the back plastic, and stick it down. Make sure, if you're not using the OEM battery adhesive, that you do it correctly and don't cover the wireless charging coil with adhesive. Also, plug in the battery before you seat it back down. We're going to put in the camera and put in its 2 screws for the bracket for the camera. Here is our OEM screen. This is a refurbished screen. I got a great deal on it because there was a little bubble up at the top of it. We go ahead and programmed the old display serial number over to the new display serial number so that we could have True Tone function. And yes, True Tone did work in the end. Sorry I didn't show that here because when this clip was filmed I didn't have the programmer. Go ahead and heat up your home button to remove it. And there's 4 screws on the bracket for the home button. Okay, go ahead and remove the home button. Push it through the front of the display. And we're going to go ahead and remove the 6 screws that are on the 2 sides of the screen bracket. We're then going to go ahead and remove all the screws covering the bracket that covers the earpiece speaker and the front camera. Also the proximity sensor. With that, we're going to go ahead and remove the earpiece speaker. And transfer that little plastic holder that is for the camera. Then we're going to carefully go ahead and pry that front camera assembly out. Also, there is 1 screw at the top left corner of the screen. Don't forget to transfer that over to your new screen. We're going to then go ahead and remove that metal bracket cover thing that goes on the back of the display. It is stuck down to the cables at the bottom, so be careful when removing it so you don't rip those. Then put the metal bracket back onto the phone screen. And go ahead and put in the camera. After that, put in the earpiece speaker and put the camera back over top of it. Then put its metal bracket back on and put back in all the screws. Next, the 6 screws on the sides of the display. After that, we're going to go ahead and put in the home button, insert it through the front of the display, make sure you're inserting it the right way. Press it in, align it, and plug it in. After that, put in the bracket and put in the 4 screws that are holding it down. That's done, you can go ahead and install your display. Plug in the camera and earpiece speaker cable first, and then the 2 display cables. After that, we're going to go ahead and take the metal bracket that covers the display connectors, and that's just 4 Phillips head screws, and we're going to put those back in. And then the bracket that covers the front-facing camera and earpiece speaker connector, and that's 3 screws, and we're going to go ahead and put those back in as well. I put the water seal in later after I programmed the True Tone because I didn't want to waste a water seal. Next, I'm going to go ahead and set down the display and put in the 2 last pentalobe screws. We'll peel off the plastic film on either side, and we're done. Showing that the phone works, testing everything out. It's a 64GB iPhone 8 on AT&T.
Thank you so much for watching my video today. If you like what you saw, please give this video a like and subscribe so you can stay updated on future videos. Thanks for watching.